Well, I mean, this is probably the first time I'm gonna actually be doing this. So, like, I've done all my intros before. So, I mean, first of all, guys, welcome to What You Say podcast. I'm here with Neil and Abriana, who have their own podcast, called Too Young for an Old Talk. And I just felt it was necessary to just get them on because I mean, one, they're a podcast, so they talk a lot, you know, and I really wanted to get them because obviously they are now living and they would have also experienced a lot of the Caribbean parenting topic that we're about to discuss because I feel like it's been trending a lot on Twitter recently, as well on Instagram recently. Definitely, I don't know if you guys would have seen the whole little boy that was injured and now he's
Yeah.
brain dead,
Yep.
which is absolutely devastating for her and her family, and obviously all of their prayers go to them.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I don't necessarily have a long or far back connection with Neil, but I don't know if you can remember this, but
I do.
okay,
We
yeah,
had confirmation class
we were
together.
confirmed together, right? That was when I can't remember, like 12, 11. I really
Yeah,
can't
we were
remember.
young.
Yes, very. But yeah, and now they are overseas in Canada, and Neil is I don't should I say a chef?
You can,
Should
yeah.
I? Well, yeah,
Formerly
a
a sous
chef,
chef, yeah.
and
Chicken
yeah,
can work.
yeah. And if you guys want to go and listen to their podcast, it will be in the description down below. It is an interesting listen. I've been behind, as I told them in their episode that we just recorded. So guys, go and check them out. But I just want to get straight into the topic where we're dealing with parenting because it's a really interesting topic, as I said, where a lot of us would have experienced Caribbean parenting, where our parents may want us to do certain things, where we meet other people and have friends that are limited and not as free as other children in a
Yeah.
sense, I guess. And actually, I sent out a Instagram what poll
Poll. What
where
question
poll
sticker?
question sticker
Yeah.
thing where I wanted to just get some answers from people what they thought on the whole parenting thing. So I will start with that because just to start out, because there was like a number of them that were sent in. And firstly, like one guy said, I'm not gonna call any names,
Yeah,
guys.
we'll keep
So
everybody
I'll try to
anonymous.
keep everybody anonymous as they really are trying to get into this. So one guy really asked, why do parents like really make you do everything around the house? Like, I know that's a lot of. I know why they do it, but why do you think that a parent would want you to be doing everything around the
Wanna go
house, like
first?
Yeah,
chores
I'll
and
go
everything?
first.
Okay, I have my answer. I'm ready.
I feel like it stems from they had to do it for 15, 20, 25 years. And now
Mhm.
they feel like I'm big for this. It's time for someone else to do it for me. It's
Mhm.
kind of like they did their time and now it's time for you to do your time. And I think that's the mentality a lot of people have when they do it.
Yeah.
I know some other people might have it so that you don't grow up feeling like everything should be done for you and try to make it a teaching moment.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I don't think that's the case for everybody. I feel like it happens for multiple reasons, but I think those are probably the main two.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just like them thinking, oh, yeah, I had to do it, you have to do it too, like tit
Mhm.
for tat kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I also think, and I think this is what my parents kind of did, and I see it a lot more now as I'm getting older, that you're living in a household, like
Mhm.
you exist within that household. So at some point, like you're going to have to do something to help maintain the
Yeah.
household.
Yeah.
I get the whole doing everything thing because I felt like that, like you never have a second to breathe, like you lay down,
Yeah.
come
You
and
get
wash
your name that
this,
call
come and...
again.
yeah,
Yeah.
like as soon as
Yeah.
you take a sit down to just like take a moment to just
Mhm.
Back
there's
on road again.
there's no time for that. I think I don't know how to describe what they're trying to do, but
Mhm.
for me, I've seen the benefits of that kind of like parenting, I guess we're calling it,
Mhm.
now come up in my work ethic. Like as an
Yeah.
adult. Like now as an adult, I in all the workplaces that I've been in since living up
Mm-hmm.
here, like I just work like nothing. And everybody's like, how are you doing
Mm-hmm.
so much? How are you like always just on top of things? Like just keep moving. Like I do things without
Mm-hmm.
being asked. I'm like, that's how my parents raised me. Like they raised me to be,
Proactive.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all the time. And like when
Yeah.
I was 15, it was freaking annoying. I was like, you could give me a second. Like, I don't always want to be
Yeah.
doing something, you know. Sometimes I just want to do nothing. Like, what's the problem? And I didn't understand it then. But what? I'm 21 now and
Thankful.
I'm very thankful. So
Yeah.
it's
As much.
annoying, but
Yeah.
I think they have good intentions in doing
Yeah.
it. But also you need to like you would have to understand your parents because I think some parents can take advantage
Mm-hmm.
in certain scenarios, but you have to know or try to know your parents.
Yeah, and I mean, as you guys said, really and truly, where you it's a tit for tat sort of thing, and that's why another person did say in the thing that they said train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, which is basically what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
Um, but in that sense, where people do talk about tit for tat, where some parents may have gone out because I'm sure at QC as it was with Harrison College. I mean, there's that whole thing with keeping your hair a certain way and all of that. And I mean, it's not necessarily a parent as in a biological parent, but that's a
Yeah.
kind of a parenting in a sense
Mm-hmm.
where the teachers do look after you, and that's something that my parents would always say that okay, you're going to school, the teachers are basically your parents away from home. So then
100%.
Yeah, I've heard my mom say that
they,
Yeah,
before.
I've heard
yeah,
you say that too. So
yeah. So it's like they
you have
always
to
say
respect.
that, yeah. So it's always a respect sort of thing. But even with, as I said, with the hair, like back then, you look back at their pictures, it's like, okay, you had an afro though.
Right?
Yeah,
So like
A full
you
exactly.
had
afro.
your hair like this. So why are you doing this now?
That's my
Like,
dad, literally.
yeah.
And my brother will like when my brother first started to grow out his hair, it was
Hmm.
like, let me go do it right now. Like it was that it was like untidy or whatever. And then I don't know. He has some sort of revelation because he let that go. So
I
Yeah.
feel like my mom never had a personal problem with my hair once it's kept neat, or by that I mean like hair could be long, but it shouldn't be specifically wild. You know,
Yeah.
like sometimes you wake up and go and that's be a look, you know, when
Yeah.
you go to fresh line up. My mom's cool with that.
Yeah.
But you know, she don't want me to be looking like I just didn't really care or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
feel that. Yeah.
but definitely, well, we have the same. Well, our deputy principal, I think, went to be the principal there, so that's
Miss
probably
Wade.
why
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard the
Yes.
stories.
a lot of the overlap came
Yes,
from.
we've
But
heard the stories. I won't really.
so it was
Yeah.
very much as soon as you start getting to senior school and you become like
Hmm.
a someone that people look up to at school, then it's like okay, they hammer down on it. So
Yeah.
like my last 3 4 years at QC was just like very militant almost with
All gas, no
Hmm.
brakes.
how they're trying to like you know
Yeah.
every other day doing hair checks, like you spending how much
Yeah.
money now? Like thinking about it, how much money in a
Like.
day's budget went to just teachers looking at people's hair, and like it's not impacting anything else, but like it's just such a
Yeah.
big thing for them.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I guess like that kind of period thing, like, it tries to make it uniform, which I get the
Yeah.
reasoning behind it to a certain
Hmm.
degree, but like you know, then you get the different, I guess, perspective on it, where it's like, okay, my hair is untidy at 2 inches as
Hmm.
a obvious black male. And then you might
Hmm.
have someone that's of a lighter complexion with a different hair type, and their hair is the same length, or their hair is longer
Yeah.
and it's still neat, so they don't get
Yeah.
until they cut it.
Hmm.
Even though we have this whole rule in the guidebook where it's like your hair must be less than 2 inches, like that's just a hard
Yeah.
fact. So my hair is probably two
Hmm.
inches when you pull it from the root straight up.
Hmm.
But you have somebody else that's lighter
And
skin or like with a different hair
their
type,
hair
Hmm.
texture is
and it's
different.
like, oh, that's fine. Like, that's still like good.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
acceptable.
Yeah.
So I feel like that kind of
Double standards.
which does
Hmm.
prevail from colonialism, kind of
Hmm.
showed up now for me, especially looking back.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that kind of would lead to. That's them protecting us, and as I guess you could look at it like that. But then that now takes me into my next subtopic, which is where someone asked me this, and I did have it as well in my notes as well, which is, does like overprotectiveness affect the relationship between a child and a parent? Because there's a lot of parents that I know, I mean, not, and some friends that I have that aren't able to do certain things
Mhm.
because there's, well, as children, us ourselves, we always around this age we want to have. As I said, we mentioned it in your episode with just having freedom in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, you always want that freedom to just go and do your own thing because you're not getting into adulthood and all of that. So being 2018, you're now basically an adult. So you want that freedom. And if a parent isn't allowing you to do some things and you're seeing your other friends do it, do you think that that is something that is a problem, or do you think that it's, again, still looking to the future and
You
developing
wanna go
that for
first?
later?
I can go first. I can
Um,
go right now.
I I think there's probably some good intent with it, but also
Mhm.
everything that I'm saying and that you're saying, we're like speaking from obviously our
Our phones,
experiences with
right?
our
Mhm.
parents. But at the end of the day, it's all Caribbean parents. Your parents are Asian. My mom
Mhm.
is Trinidadian. Um, I don't know. I feel like I had a pretty decent experience being that I was the oldest child and I was a
Mhm.
girl.
Yeah.
Um, so I was my parents' tester child for everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I feel like I had to tug a bit more than I see my younger sibling having to because I
Mhm.
essentially paved the way for a lot of the things that
Yeah.
he can now just
Yeah, really.
get, not necessarily get away with, but almost just like get a pass
Yeah. Yeah.
because my parents know the outcome or kind of understand the situation better, whether
Mhm.
it's like schooling, going out, having people over, like those kind of things, because
Mhm.
they went through all of that with me. Um, I I don't think my parents are overprotective, but in a situation where you might feel like they're not giving you
Oh, kind of what you
the
want.
space that you want or you're not winning in a situation,
Mhm.
now that I look back, I can definitely say like there was probably good intent or they had a solid reason for doing it. Whereas me in my young adolescent years was just like,
Mhm.
you just don't like me. Like, why do you not like me? Like, why are you fighting me so much? Like, if
Yeah.
you, it's kind of like the whole like, if you love me, you would let me have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
time you start saying that, you just sound like a brat. Like, you just sound like
Yeah.
you just,
Entitled.
yeah, you're just like, if you love me, you would give me. It's like no.
Mhm.
Um, I think I don't know. I'm saying this from like 21-year-old
Yeah.
Abriana, but like
In the
I'm
moment.
thinking about 14
When,
and 15-year-old
yeah.
Abriana. And back then, like I would not have taken the time to like sit and understand like where's my mom coming from or where's my dad coming from
Mhm.
when they say this, or why are they doing this?
Yeah.
What
Mhm.
benefit does this have? But now I can like,
It makes more sense
yeah,
now.
like I probably won't fight with my parents now, or if I do, it's gonna be like over adult things. So I don't know.
I
Yeah.
feel like the overprotectiveness, it can be damaging. You think of that stereotype where it's like the pastor's children might be rebellious because
Mhm.
you're
Yeah.
so strict, or you keep people in such a routine that then they just kind of want to explore because they don't know. So
Mhm.
I feel like obviously you want to protect your child, and it does more than likely come from a positive place across the board.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think that you have to decide the battles you want to win and lose, quote unquote, as a
Mhm.
parent. Like, what's something you really want to make sure that they don't do, or something you really want to make sure they do with you around them or with your
Mhm.
guidance, as opposed to like trying to give them nothing. You got to give some bit of ground, I think.
Mhm.
Like for me, I guess the context is I'm the eldest child on my mom's side because I'm her only child. On my dad's side, I'm the second
Mhm.
oldest or eldest. Um, so I didn't have to toe the line like Abriana because the stereotypical only child, you kind of get what you want or whatnot. But I feel like my mom definitely balanced that pretty well. Like there was a lot of things that you kind of wanted, especially when you start to become an individual, and like approaching like 18, is like, you know what? Why am I not doing X, Y, Z? I want this right now. I
Yeah.
don't want
Or
to wait.
even before that, when you're like in a school environment and you seeing
Mm-hmm.
people with things like, I know for my brother now growing up,
Oh, like
like
Mm-hmm.
everybody has an
the
iPhone
brand new
11 Pro
iPhones.
Yes.
Yeah,
Max
yeah.
and
Yes. Yeah.
AirPods, and he coming home and telling my parents foolishness about he want this and he want that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hello, at 15,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not have no blasted iPhone,
Yeah.
so just ease off. So I think influences
Yeah,
like,
that's you. Especially with social media, like we're so much more aware of what everybody else is doing,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
it looks like, you know, this person's partying every
and
weekend.
this person has such a great life. Like, mommy, I need to
Yeah.
be doing this too.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like finding balance is key. My mom wasn't
Mm-hmm.
overly protective. She's very protective because I'm all she had. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she got to
Yeah.
make sure I
That's fair
survived and
enough.
whatnot.
Yeah.
But like, you know, my mom, I think my mom, I don't think anyone's a perfect parent, but mom is pretty darn close. Because she was willing to learn and
Mm-hmm.
hear me and kind of understand where I was coming from. And you know, my mom would be dead set in her ways because she's stubborn, but like in a good way, that she would be
Yeah.
she was in it and would still listen to you and think about it, and you'll come back like, okay, actually I understand where you're coming from, and you still may not get it, but she would like at least have that conversation with you, and
Mm-hmm.
she would let you win some battles or you lose some.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she was willing to let me get hurt a little bit, not like in danger obviously, but you know, maybe let me make a mistake and then kind of
And
learn
then
from
learn
it.
from it.
I would get roast all the way through, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I feel like it is hard enough to keep that balance with like children being so much aware of all the popular things that are being done by their peers. Like,
Yeah.
okay, my friend has a brand new car, mom, why can't I get a brand new car? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
and if they might not even own the car, you might just think they own it.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's just what people are allowing you to see. I don't know. I guess you can try to talk to your parents.
you know, it's not as easy. I feel
I
like they
know
are
it's
Yeah.
very
not.
close
It's
to
really not as easy. Yeah.
that.
It really
I'm
isn't.
also very lucky that
Mm-hmm.
my parents will listen
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and take in what I'm saying, even if after they sit on listen to me, they still have the
Mm-hmm.
same answer. Like they
Yeah.
took the time to listen to what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Well, I mean, even if you're not, you just said the word listen. Like, this is something that I know that a lot of people then say, even if it isn't about parenting, and it's even about like talking about a relationship or just even their peers or their friends, their best friends or whatever it is. Like one person put in their answer and said that parents will refuse to communicate with children because they think that they know more than the child and that the child should have no say in the matter. And that's something that like even on like We Match, you sometimes hear or like there's the meme that's like, oh, um your mother comes home and does or says something, and if you say something and the parent is wrong, they're just gonna like tell you to do something, or they're gonna get angry or something like that.
yeah.
So
They take it out of you.
yeah, so
Avoid the situation.
listening, I guess, is a really key thing. I mean, but parenting is something that you don't there's no manual on
Yeah.
being a parent. You have to either learn from your parent
Yeah,
or
exactly.
you just dive in, and whatever happens, you try to be your best to correct it or make the most of it. Because as Neil said, Neil is the only person. So you have to try your best to have that balance in that sense. But there's another thing that the same person said where they were like that regardless of the age, as long as you live under your parents' roof, you must abide by all rules and do as they say. That nothing that the parent says is wrong with you, because they provide so much.
Yeah.
They provide for you, and that if once they provide for you, they believe that they're a good parent. I think I saw that on Instagram as well, where on a
Mm,
meme, right, where somebody was like, as long as a parent provides, that's
Be
being a
like
good parent,
on the
you
monitor.
know.
Yeah,
But
mm-mm,
me personally, I think it's more than that. It's
100%.
communication and all
it's
of that.
definitely that's not the cap
That's
at
not
all.
making the cut, to be
I can
honest.
definitely
Mm-hmm.
relate to and respect the whole if you're living underneath my roof, you're abiding by my rules kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there has to be some lenience with that though. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I got that in certain situations with my parents and then with
Mm-hmm.
my family that I live with now, who are also technically
Mhm.
Caribbean parents because they were born and
Mhm.
raised in the Caribbean, um, whereby yes, you have set rules, but like as your kids or just as young adults get older, like there's certain things that you should be able to give some sort of leeway with and have like a give and take, but
Mhm.
that's very important. Give and take.
Yeah.
And my mother has been a staple preacher for this for my
Yeah.
entire life. Like, if
Mhm.
you want to be able to take, you have to be giving. So that goes back to what I said
Mhm.
earlier about like helping out in your household and things like that.
Mhm.
Like, you can't expect to be given all this freedom and be given certain things and benefits and
Mhm.
not
Work for it.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
if I had to describe the Caribbean parenting style, it
Mhm.
would be kind of like do as I say and not as I do. Because kind of going back to how your
Mm.
dad, like looking back at how your parents might have had
Yeah.
afros back in the day, or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
even teachers might have had the same thing.
No, my dad had his ears pierced.
So then like it's kind
And
of
my
like
brother brought up that topic and it
yeah,
was
I
like,
shouldn't
She's
have.
like,
no,
no,
Yeah,
no, no.
no.
I remember that. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
they had their experiences, and as they've gone through it, and they kind of have a know
Mhm.
or an idea of how it's gonna potentially put you down a different path that they wouldn't want to see you go down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mhm.
kind of where they'd be like, oh, don't do this. But
Mhm.
you kind of they kind of have to give that space to like I said, you gotta pick and win your battles. You gotta allow them to
Mhm.
experience it. But okay, yeah, I actually don't want to do this. But obviously, you don't want that 12-year-old child say, yeah, I want a tattoo,
Mhm.
just go get a tattoo. So you're gonna go decide it. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like it really does come down to working for it. Like for me, a lot of things that I wanted, I could
Mhm.
really only even consider getting it if I put in that work. And my education was a big thing for my mom. So like really making sure I bring home a good report. If I bring home a bad
Mhm.
report, it ain't really gonna be like, salutations and all these greetings. Like I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
get like
Yeah.
beat or whatever, but like if I have like a bad report, there's gonna be repercussions, there's
Mhm.
gonna be a plan, like, how are you gonna improve it? What are you gonna do to make it better next time? And how
Mhm.
are you gonna want to get X, Y, and Z and you're not working for it. So I feel like trying to find that balance, but I know not everybody has it where it's like,
Yeah.
It's not as easy.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
as easy.
And I think something else that I'm acknowledging a lot more now, and I feel like a lot of people have been discussing more, is that
Mhm.
our parents are also individuals. I think
Yeah.
sometimes I'm only now understanding this more,
Mhm.
but I think growing up, like you're not thinking about it like that if you're not seeing
Yeah.
them in another light other than your parent. Like you're not
Mhm.
acknowledging that like your parent had
Has
to
their
grow
own,
up to like they have their own hurt
yeah,
that they might still be dealing with.
their own struggles.
Like they have their own friend groups, they have like what they like and what
Mhm.
they don't like and all that kind of stuff. So as easy as it is to just want to pick battles and be like, you just giving me a hard time just because, like you just
Mhm.
being mean
Mhm.
just because,
Yeah,
it's you also have to remind yourself like,
they went through it.
yeah, and they're an
Yeah.
individual too. They're processing things in their own way
And
and they're
balancing the pros and cons.
exactly.
I
Mhm.
feel like I was lucky enough to, because of my unique parenting situation, I
Mhm.
always was able to view my parents as individual people and understand they had, other stuff that they could do or their own lives outside just parenting. And
Mhm.
I always was interested in, how it was for them growing up, even if you don't get like a full story. But, you might hear some interesting stories like, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
back in my day, we used to have to walk X, Y, and Z. You used to
Mm-hmm.
drive
Yeah.
everywhere. And, just like those interesting stories, to be honest. So I think that kind of allowed it for me. Like I have a picture of my dad in my room and back home, and the man has an afro, like like a perfect afro. He's like
Yeah.
7 years old. Like how you here with this low at seven? Like it's ridiculous, right? So yeah, I feel
Mhm.
like that those kind of things. Like when you're aware of like, okay, this person had to go through their own troubles, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe you give them the benefit of the doubt because that makes it easier to understand their decisions.
Mhm. Right, and I mean, just as you guys were just saying, in its point where they are individuals, there are some parents that do say, because another person did say that parents do tend to say the thing where it's like parents saying a child should be seen and not heard, but the person did go on to say that it causes a generation of followers and not original thinkers. But
Mhm.
I can't necessarily fully agree with it, but I see what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And where I was going back to where you were saying that there are I guess that's for us really. We were fortunate that we weren't as heavily treated or gotten as much corporal punishment as another child would, because
Yeah.
if you say that you brought home a bad report, it's how can you fix this?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do to fix that and make a solution? Whereas for another child, that may be
You're
growing up
just
in
like,
a
It's
one household,
just
it's
full
just
on discipline.
yeah,
Yeah.
discipline. You
But
have to
there's
do this.
also, I find more so living up here, we've seen
Mm-hmm.
the flip side of that, which is
Yeah.
instead of there being a like full on discipline or like a balance between discipline
Mm-hmm.
and then some sort of like
solution.
solution,
It's
Mm-hmm.
just
it's just full on like sassy, like, oh my God,
it's
I'm
hard.
so sorry you did that. I can't, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's so bad. Please don't do that again. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Okay,
like
great.
So
a
then,
month ago we were recording an episode, and
yeah.
a little boy was on a bike with his mom right outside here, and he just went
Mm-hmm.
straight up the street, cross
Mm-hmm.
the road looking left or right, and all you could hear is I can't remember his name. His name was hilarious though, but she was shouting his name. The little boy would not come back for a good 2-3 minutes, so she eventually
Mm-hmm.
caught up, stopped him, and then pulled him off the bike. Grab his hands, sat on the
Mm-hmm.
floor. Okay, let's talk to me. What are you feeling? What are you doing? Like, if that was me, I was holding hand. Like, I would have
Like
hold hand. Like,
there was
Yeah,
no
just from
yeah,
the running away on a bike. This time the boy on
yeah.
training wheels still, so he can't ride
Mm-hmm.
properly. And he's like probably like 6'7". So like he just being hard, there's I'm risking his life because my
Mm-hmm.
parents never used to put it on cars.
Mm-hmm.
So for me it was like, okay, in the road you gotta be extra careful, you gotta look left, you gotta look right.
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, you gotta listen.
Yeah.
But this little boy just dipping straight across roads that him looking right here on main roads. And if that was me, it was you were gonna feel that repercussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there has to be a balance between like letting you know that you did something wrong, but then also,
Mm-hmm.
or like that was not good enough,
Yeah.
whatever you did, however you
Mm-hmm.
performed, but also giving you that space to be like, all right, how are we gonna work on this because it needs to
Mm-hmm.
get better. Like this is not the standard
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing.
can't
Like
do
you
you
have to
can't
be doing
continue to do
more.
this.
Exactly.
Right. So I mean, even though that you need to have that balance, do you guys think? Because I mean, you have here with the whole education thing, with the whole that's a major part, and I do agree with that. So how let's take away their generation.
Mhm.
How do you think that like we as the younger generation can correct that to make that balance? Because the I mean, we're in the West, but obviously, I'm going to try to separate the Caribbean from America and Canada and Europe,
Mm-hmm.
where the Caribbean, as we know, is a bit stricter, I guess, than other continents. So,
Yeah.
um, how do you think that we would be able to correct that and have that balance of, okay, we know when to communicate, when to be strict, when to be disciplined, or when to be easygoing, and let them and even trust them, because the trust is a very big thing in parenting. Because if a child isn't trusted, then they're going to rebel even more. So, how do you guys think that we can correct that and make that better? I guess.
Do you want to go first?
I'll try because I'm thinking about that and trying to think about how my parents navigated that because I think that they
Mm-hmm.
did that pretty well. But the only thing I can think about is the fact that I talk so much. So because I talk so much, like
Mm-hmm.
my parents were able to understand me so well because
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily that I was like oversharing or anything, like they don't know every single
Aspect.
detail about me, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but I shared so much of myself with them that they were able to understand how to
Mm-hmm.
navigate me and like when to like they know when to talk to me and when not to talk to me
Okay,
kind of.
when to give you that
Mm-hmm.
And
space.
like exactly because
Yeah.
when I say like when to talk to me and when not to talk to me, it's not like as a big woman living in their house that they could
Oh,
like,
I
oh, I
forgot
can
about
I can
that.
have my door closed at this time and
Yeah.
yeah, that's not what I'm getting at here. More so, yeah, what you said that it's what did you say?
I said a lot of things. You mean right
No,
just
just
now?
now.
Um,
You can't even remember it.
no, I can't remember.
Basically, like they know
Or when to give you space.
Yes, when to give me space. That's what it was.
Mhm.
When to give me
Your hands
space,
cue different.
and when when I need attention, I guess, or when I
Mhm.
need support in a sense.
Mhm.
But if you're not in that situation because you just don't talk as much as me, I think
Mhm.
it's, as we said, like parenting is pretty freaking weird and hard,
Mhm. Yeah.
and there's no manual, as we said, for it.
Mhm.
So I think we have to, as kids, sometimes take a leap of faith
Mhm.
and open up in a way, or
Mhm.
make that first step to let our parents know, like, okay, we're good to communicate right now, or let's
Mhm.
talk about X, Y, and Z, or
This is how I'm feeling right
can
now.
I let you know about this situation, whatever the
Mhm.
case is, and then move from there. And depending on the response you get, you can know how to navigate. But it's kind of
Mhm.
hard because
Yeah.
everybody's been put in different situations, and you might not feel like you can approach your parents in that way. And
Mhm.
honestly, sometimes you might be right,
Sure.
Yeah.
where you just can't, because whatever your parents have dealt with that have brought them to the point where they are now with you,
Mhm.
they're not able to navigate that with you,
Yeah.
or they just haven't experienced that, or they don't know. It's all like trial and
Mhm.
error.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
in their mind, like it doesn't even make sense to listen out for you at that moment in time. It's like they can just go their gut, or my parents will always come to me, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so weird because those things are bouncing
Mhm.
off in your mind, and neither you nor your parent are
That's
like
true.
talking to each other and actually being like, oh, well, I thought you were gonna do so
Yeah.
and so, or oh,
Yeah.
I thought you were okay. I thought you were just like having a moment, da 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 da. And nobody's
Mhm.
actually saying it out loud.
Mhm.
So
Because you kind of half step around it.
I don't know. I guess I just got lucky because I talk a lot.
I feel
So
like my mom,
everything was just out in the air.
my mom always used to come to me, and I don't know when, but after a certain point, I feel like we never had like bad communication, but we had a really good communication for a lot of my teenagehood,
Mhm.
teenage years.
Hmm.
Um, my mom was always close to me, close to both my parents, but I feel as though our communication was at a level where it was like, if I was feeling wrong or in a bad headspace or in a weird, moody, hormones or
Mhm.
whatever,
She would pick it up.
she'd be like, okay, you want to talk? Do you need space?
Mm.
I was
Mhm.
always an emotional child, so not
Mhm.
like freaking out Irish children, my mom, because I'm not. But my emotions would show, and even if it's not on my face, it's gonna be on my actions, how I speak. Not like
Mhm.
being disrespectful, but I just would be like,
How you put down things.
yeah, I would be like,
Mhm.
no, okay, maybe.
Start
It
like,
would be like,
you know when you just like nudge things a bit too hard,
Yeah.
you just like drop something down with a bit of
a little bit
force.
less care than usual.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
feel like that, and also like you'd be less talkative, because I can be talkative, or I
Mhm.
could just be like, I don't even want to be here right now. So
Yeah.
my mom picked up on that well, and we used to talk through like anything that came up too. So yeah, she's just good, like lucky. For me, if I was to do that, I feel like the main thing, that if I didn't have my parenting situation,
Mhm.
the thing is to challenge yourself and realize what worked for you and what didn't work for you growing up.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
then I think we spoke up with this previously, but talking to those people that were successful when you were being raised, and like
Mhm.
figuring out why they did X, Y, and Z, or how do they think they could improve it. That way, like you have a basis
Mhm.
as to what to base your parenting style off of, to
Yeah.
then try to
Mhm.
take the next level. It's kind of like in most things, if you don't ask, you would never know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could think and try to draw from your own experiences, but getting both sides, like how you felt with it as a child and how the parent felt with it, that could help you form a higher level of understanding for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that's a really bad habit that I think a lot of Caribbean parents take on. The whole kind
Mhm.
of like, this is how I was raised.
Mhm.
I know it's wrong. I'm fully aware
But
that
it
this
kind of
did
sort of
not do
is.
me good,
Yeah,
that
but then
I probably
they
have
still go
like
with it. Yeah.
unresolved trauma and like issues from this style of parenting and from how my parents dealt with this. I
Mhm.
know it's wrong, but it's all I know. So
You gotta
I
check it.
I could just give this to you too. This is
Uh-huh.
what it is. This is all I
Yeah.
have to offer. And
Mhm.
as you said, it's like taking that leap of faith and actually like saying like,
Mhm.
okay, why not try this?
Yeah.
Like I'd rather,
Mhm.
we've been talking about this a lot. Like I'd rather it be a oh well than a what
Mhm.
if.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because what do you have to lose other than something not working or like somebody saying
Mm-hmm.
no? I think it's a
Exactly.
Yeah.
lot better to do it that way than to
Go there.
continue that generational trauma and
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
Go
hurt
something you
just
know
like
not gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
just balling over. And I think our generation is really realizing that that can't work. Like,
I think just to add to that, I think a really good facet of social media has been
Mm-hmm.
you can now relate better, like how we kind of like realize that it's
Mm-hmm.
a trope around the Caribbean that
Yeah.
these kind of things are very similar. I
Yeah.
feel like social media has allowed for that because obviously you might know people in a different country, but the connections are so much more personal now, and
yeah.
it's really allowed for us to be like, this is actually a similarity. Like maybe there's a reason behind our
Mm-hmm.
great great grandparents doing this, and I think there is, but I'll say
Mm-hmm.
that for later.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I guess you could put this, it necessarily isn't um a Caribbean thing. It's a parent thing in general, where there are the high expectations, where there's a stereotype where some Indian parents may be wanting their child to do this, and the Chinese parent may be like, oh, I saw Family Guy. They already made that subtle joke in one of their episodes, and for in Barbados, I guess you could say that a lot of the parents have that whole ideology where it's okay, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, and there are a lot of people that go to Harrison College or Queen's College where I know a guy that was just like his dad is a doctor, his mom is a doctor, and he's like, you have to be a doctor now because like you have to
There's
not do
Stick to
this,
pressure.
that
you have to
tradition.
take the time to go to lessons so that you get towards being a
Mm-hmm.
doctor, a lawyer, or whatever it is, and you have to do is this, where there isn't that freedom where
Yeah,
they
what we
can,
talked about
yeah,
earlier.
where they can just discover it for themselves, because
Yeah, you
the teenage being a teenager, you always want to figure out stuff on your own.
exactly.
So it's you
Like
can't
you
just
want to know that somebody's like behind you
For
or
supporting you.
you
mm-hmm.
have somebody in your back pocket if you need it,
Yeah.
but you also, as you said, you want to be able to figure things out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big part of being a parent, like being able to give your child that space
Mm-hmm.
to be like figure out what you want to do. Okay, if you're taking like umpteen years to do it, we might need to
Mm-hmm.
sit down and
Yeah,
have a
maybe need
chat
a
and be like,
nudge.
all right,
Yeah.
let's try to narrow down the options
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But I think both of us can say we're very grateful that our parents had that
Yeah,
mindset where
Mm-hmm.
they let us
figure it out
figure it out, make a decision, and ultimately
Mm-hmm.
stick to it.
and support you going through it. I feel like
Yeah. Or we wouldn't
yeah,
be pursuing the things that we're
Yeah.
I wouldn't. We
pursuing.
would probably not be in Canada specifically.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like even if like your parents, allow you to find that path, having them support you is can also like they might give you suggestions as to what they think, but like
Mm-hmm.
the key thing is not forcing it upon somebody else because
Mm-hmm.
somebody wanting to do something and somebody being forced to do something are completely
Mm-hmm.
different, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's why that whole like in North America it's really bad where children go to college and university just because their parents
Mm-hmm.
want to do it, and
Mm-hmm.
then they just drop out in 2 years, or they just do like
Yeah.
some random degree just to get their parents off the back.
Yeah.
But like that's not really helpful for anybody because one, they're probably
Mm-hmm.
going to want to do something else with it. They're not trying to use that. Um, so it's like okay, they wasted time, they wasted money, and then
Mm-hmm.
two, the parent definitely wasted money because the child obviously didn't have the money to go college at 16 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like for me, my mom, she was really, and my dad too. They were like really like, what do you want to do? And I kind of
Mm-hmm.
always knew what I wanted to do from 13ish. Um, obviously, different things will come up and you get new experiences. Like, okay, maybe you want to do this. And my mom was really good at like, have an idea what you want to do, but don't lock yourself in. Don't feel like you need to force yourself to follow through with this. Keep an open mind, and even going into college, she kept telling me that same thing. Because at QC, I was doing
Mm-hmm.
sciences for my last four
Yeah.
years. I stopped doing nutrition
Mm-hmm.
in fifth form. So like it was pure science and math for the last 2 years there. So
Mm-hmm.
I was really out of touch with it from that aspect. Like obviously you would cook at home, but it's not the same as doing it
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
every other day at school. Um, so yeah, I guess like as a parent, the challenge comes from having that expectation, but then
Mm-hmm.
really just dialing it back to like a suggestion, like okay, I would like to see you do this, and maybe give a bit of context, because I feel like we don't
Mhm.
often get that context being as a child and the mentality being
Yeah,
you
it's
got
very
here.
much like this is what it is because I say so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
giving that backstory, that why, because obviously they have a reason for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they pick and choose what they want
To say.
To
to
say,
say
let you
and what they
know.
want you
Yeah.
to know. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times, as you said, like if you get that context, like situations become an easier pill to swallow because you
Mm-hmm.
have that backstory and you might not agree with it, but you know understand where they're coming from.
Just continuing, because you guys were basically just saying about, you know, just having the freedom of everything, and I do definitely think it's about supporting. Parenting is definitely, as you said, you might want to dive into it yourself, but you just want to have that person that's behind you. I think that should be one of the main things about being a parent, is just to support your child, but not make them do something. You know, so like, and even like you said, you have the last 2 years doing sciences, and I mean, but some persons that are doing those last 2 years or even at common entrance, they have that pressure to behind them that you have to do well in these last 2 years, or because like from reception to class two, you know, you're doing XYZ, and then class three and class four is okay, hammer
Preparation.
down. You have that pressure. Now you have to already decide your future, because if you don't go to X or Y or Z school, you're not going to be as better
Yeah.
off as
You're
you will
behind
be
already.
Let's not
somewhere
even
else.
talk about schooling, zoning, which school you go to, the
Yeah, you guys mentioned it in one of your podcasts already.
yeah, we
Yeah.
So
did.
I feel like you mentioned that.
you did,
Cause
you did.
My dad was really much a proponent of it don't really matter what school you go to. It matters what you do at school.
yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, there is that
I
as
believe
well.
in that.
which is legit. My dad went to I forget the name.
Whew.
Allen school.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So
Hmm.
my cousin that I live with also went to Allen school, and they're doing wildly different things. It's kind of it depends on what path you end up want to going down.
Hmm.
But like for me, like I legit told my mom after you come entrance that I passed for Allen just because I wanted to see her
Hmm.
reaction.
Hmm.
And she wasn't mad or anything, so it was like sick. Like this is good.
What is it?
Hmm.
Yeah,
So surprised, I actually didn't pass for Allen. That was a
yeah.
bad thing apparently. It close to my house, so it didn't matter. But it was really like
Hmm.
what's the value in it? I feel like I didn't have that much pressure going into common entrance
Hmm.
from the studies aspect. Like obviously there was a lot of preparation happening.
Hmm.
But I guess in my head it was never like a do or die kind of thing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Which is I guess beneficial because a lot of people don't have it like that. Like for them it's
Yeah,
really like
exactly.
This
this
is
is the
it.
moment, right?
Yeah.
And then for
That's so
CXCs,
ridiculous.
I only found out CXCs were I obviously I had the concept of it and I would do CXC related things up
Hmm.
until that point. But like in class three is when it was like, oh, sorry, third form was like, oh, we're actually doing CSCs next year. Like, what's a CSC? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
I was aware of these things, and obviously, there's preparation happening, even if I wasn't aware, because at QC
Hmm.
in the curriculum, they prepare you for it since the second form, I think. That's when you start
Hmm.
doing the CSC syllabus, quote unquote. Um,
Hmm.
so it was like I wasn't the pressure wasn't there from the start, so it wasn't like this whole
Hmm.
gloom and doom kind of thing.
Hmm.
Obviously, as you get closer, that's when like you start to feel like, okay, this is actually something happening. Um, but I remember like after fifth form, my mom made me sit down and crunch the numbers as to how many people can actually get
Hmm.
into sixth form that do the fifth form, and it's
Hmm.
like a ridiculously small percentage, especially for the school. I want to go
Hmm.
back to QC, so that was even smaller. So it's
Hmm.
like really I gotta do the impossible is what it looked like if I want to go back here.
Yeah.
So that's probably the main point where it's like I had a
Hmm.
feel of crunch, but it wasn't like even like that bad because you still had the support from friends and you know family was still there in a sense. But
Hmm.
if every exam I had it going with that kind of feeling, it probably wouldn't have been. I probably would have ended up going the same path I went to because
Hmm.
that mental drain is not fun.
Yeah.
And at such a young age too, like how people put pressure at common entrance level, they you could graduate from your secondary school and still not
Do
have
anything.
a defined
Hmm.
like
Yep.
idea of what you want to do. I don't that whole having a life planned out by third form and before all kind of nonsense. I'm not here for it because
Yeah.
neither of us are doing what we studied up until
Mm-hmm.
K. So
Yeah.
the fact that you need to like base your studies, like obviously if you have a plan,
It
like I
helps.
want to go here, I want to pursue this, like for
Mm-hmm.
sure tailor your studies up until that point to that. But otherwise, that unnecessary pressure is literally
Yeah.
unnecessary.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I want to dive into something that's a lot deeper now because I mean, there's a lot of people that you would have seen. There's people at school that you hear about that, their parent come. I remember specifically, and I know that some other Harizonians might be able to relate and remember it at least, that there was this one guy that I don't know what he did, but I remember his mom just came to school and he was beaten. I don't know if you guys ever been to Harrison College, but the quadrangle, the big
Yeah.
tree, right? His mom just on one morning just came and beat him right there, like, and people then they always say that it's about environment and all that. So a child may act out at school due to their environment at home.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, like, what do you guys think, like, about that? Because there's a lot of children that are like that, and then it then leads to a pretty bad future. But then there are those children who do have a good environment, but still resort to those. Like even Jerry, in a sense, he came
Yeah.
from that, and he said, okay, it was what be cool or whatever. But what do you guys think about the parents who create that bad environment and then I don't know, it's kind of like they're surprised when something bad happens.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what word I would use to describe that. Honestly, just wild, because and it's definitely a level of ignorance, because how
Mm-hmm.
can you pretend, because you're pretending at that point, to be
Mm-hmm.
oblivious to the environment you've created and you foster at home, that you're
Mm-hmm.
probably springing out of yourself onto your
Mm-hmm.
child. Like I've said this so many times, everything is learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like kids literally watch everything you do. That's how we learn to speak. It's how we learn to
Yeah.
read and write. Everything is based off of seeing other people do it, and a lot of times those people are our parents.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think there's an exception where when you might be doing things subconsciously, or you might
Mm-hmm.
not realize that you're pushing out things a certain
Yeah.
way when you're in a household environment and your child is
Mm-hmm.
picking up on them without you realizing. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're doing it and you just don't give two hoots that they're picking up on it, which
Mm-hmm.
is equally as bad.
Yeah.
But I definitely think there's some sort of ignorance in allowing that and entertaining that kind of behavior and environment at home, and then
Mm-hmm.
seeing it outside the home and wondering, wait, where you got that from?
Yeah. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Where's this coming from? Like, I
Yeah.
remember one day in Foundation Schoolyard, somebody like threw. We had a snow cone vendor that used to come in on the school premises every evening after school. And my dad came to
Mm-hmm.
pick me up, and I got in the car. And Foundation kind of has like a roundabout, like
Yeah.
how
Yeah. Yeah.
HC does.
Yeah. I
So
remember.
he picks me up at the top. I get in whatever, and we coming around the side to go out the second gate.
Mm-hmm.
And some little boy, I was little boy, little girl. I don't remember who it was because I was traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
Had a snow cone and threw their empty snow cone cup with a little and ice on the grass instead of just walking to the garbage. Like school is out, everybody's going home.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad stopped the car, the truck, and just started yelling at the kid. And kind of, I won't say how he said it, but he basically asked if they do that at home and if they throw garbage on the floor in their living room and in their bedroom. And the body obviously responded and said no, because
Yeah.
hello.
Who would be allowed to?
Mm-hmm.
So he said, so why are you doing that here? Like, was he meaning to doing that here? Pick it up and go and put it in the garbage. And my dad waited for the kid to pick it up and go put it in the garbage. And I'm just sitting there, like everybody around is looking, because like school
Yeah.
just got let out. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh my God, this is a great life lesson, but really?
Yeah.
Does
Not right
everybody
now.
have to see me here?
Yeah.
Anyways, like that kind of behavior that I don't know. You have to know not necessarily time and place, because there's no time to be throwing garbage
Yeah.
on the ground with that
Mm-hmm.
specific example. But I think that example leads into what you said about some people don't necessarily have that environment at home, but
Mm-hmm.
because of the environment they have, they feel they need to do certain things outside the house,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, now I'm free, breath of fresh air, like I can now
Let
be
loose.
who I want to be, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like be the person I think I want to be, or try
Mm-hmm.
to conform to some sort of narrative. The whole, like you said, Jerry said, like being cool.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
want to uphold these standards. You want to be what you see this person as being.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know where that person come from, the type of circumstances they have at home, anything like that. But you
Mm-hmm.
see them and you think, all right, that's the goal. That's what I need to aspire to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you leave your household where those sort of things are not acceptable, and go
Mm-hmm.
outside and do them. And in that situation, as a parent, I would be
I was
dumbfounded.
gonna
I'd
say
be,
I'll be
woo.
dumbfounded.
That was the word. I was like, I
I'll be shocked
shook,
still.
shook.
You know, I agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, and even a deeper thing. As I mean, I mentioned it at the beginning about the whole the parent and the guy, the little boy who's now brain dead. And I was having this conversation with a couple of my friends Friday, and he asked, like, as a parent, like, what would you do now? Do you really take responsibility for this? Because is your obviously people are saying, it's not purpose. Nobody at that age, I would think, I would love to think that at that age you are not purposely trying to injure or kill somebody or make them brain
Mm-hmm.
dead. So as a parent, how do you recover, and what do you say to one, the other parents, two, to to the news, the media that are going to come to you and ask you
Yeah.
questions, because you're now pressured, because they may not even have a bad environment. I'm not going to judge or think of whatever they're doing at their house, but
Yeah.
it may not be a bad environment, it may be, and you know your child is now done this.
Yeah.
How do you go from there, really?
I mean, I feel like on Twitter there was a lot of debate about it between the back and forth of, you know, understanding why people might have or might want to go about it protecting their child, or and
Yeah.
then other people saying, well, yeah, I would put my child up. I feel like with something of that nature, like obviously the basic desire is to protect your child, but I really can't think how I could be okay with my child, like, being home and living a normal life like that, like after doing something so horrendous, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that really pushes the limit for me. Like, yeah, like I might, well, I can imagine I love my child with my whole heart, but honestly, it's such a disgusting act that, like, for
Mm-hmm.
me, I feel like I don't want to own up for it. I want them to have to own up for it, kind of thing, because I can't picture myself doing something like that, especially at that age. It's kind of like demented almost.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously accidents happen, but like that's a real serious accident, and there's still some sort of
Yeah.
repercussion that should be
Yeah.
made to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's hard to say, but honestly, my child will have to go. I would, in the first place, I would hate to find out my child's a bully,
Yeah.
because I would want to know where to get it from,
Yeah,
because it
exactly.
clearly come from home. But like
That's the thing though, because now you have to like sit down and
I try to
evaluate
backtrack.
and backtrack, and if necessary, you need to own up
So yeah, 'cause it had
to
to
Yeah.
come from
the
somewhere.
same thing we just talked about, like the environment that you're fostering
Yeah,
at home,
and allowing them
Mm-hmm.
to feel like they
or
can do that
what you're allowing your child to be around
and see.
outside of the house. Like what
Yeah.
kind of influence do they have when they go outside, and who are they hanging out
That's true
with,
too.
and all that kind of stuff. Because I know, like, from having a young brother, like the
Mm-hmm.
type of people that young boys hang out with, like, says a
Yeah.
lot about everything
Yes.
y'all do, like from the music right back down to
To
how he talks and all that.
yeah.
So
Fair. You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I feel like for me, I couldn't hide it. Like, it would really just break my heart. Obviously, it is somebody else's child, but it's still a child, who
Mm-hmm.
had so much taken from them, just with their whole life ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so many things that are now like so far to reach and so unlikely. So
Mm-hmm.
I would really need to give that parent at least some sort of closure in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
this is what happened and this is what's going to happen as a result. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really complicated. And I don't think anybody pictures it because if you grew up not doing X, Y, and Z, you wouldn't really picture your child doing X, Y, and Z. So I kind of
Yeah.
get why some parents kind of see certain trends and be like, okay, don't do this, make sure you don't do that. I try to shut that down. But yeah, that's a real tricky one, honestly. I feel like it really isn't good for anybody involved. But I really don't think that the people that really assaulted that young boy should get away with just okay, maybe an apology and move on. I think something
Yeah.
else would need to happen.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
more definitely does have to happen, but I also think the parents too need to be held
Accountable.
accountable
Yeah.
at some measure, because at that age, like there's certain things that you just should not be doing by yourself because you're so young. Like I don't even think my parents let me sit in the front seat at that age. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I had to wait till I was like closer to 12,
Yeah. Yeah. I actually did.
like
Yeah, I did.
around that
Yeah.
age to be able to like sit in the front
Isn't
seat.
there a legal
Yeah.
age though?
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think
seven,
it's
right?
I think it's like 11 or something like that.
Yeah, there's
I
some sort
think
of legal
so.
age where you
Yeah.
should not
So
You
be.
like if
can't.
you can't do something like that, there should be other things that
You shouldn't really can't
as
do.
a parent you should be able to not necessarily shelter,
And still,
but yes, and limit where your child can go. I know a lot of, not a lot of parents, I know in the Caribbean there's a lot of, I don't want to call it a stigma, there's
and
maybe a notion
yeah, I know.
that certain people like just let their kids run wild, like from a young age. You can catch the bus home, you can walk
Yeah.
home by yourself, you could do this by yourself and just kind of leave them to their own devices. And that might be a choice and it may not. They may have certain circumstances at home
Yeah.
and in other areas of their life that they're not able to be there. And I feel like I was fortunate enough to like, my parents were there to pick me up from school, or somebody else is there to pick me up or to tell me where to go, or whatever the case was. Everybody might not have that, but at the end of the day, that's your kid. So you have to take, you
Responsibility.
might not have been there, but you have to take some form of responsibility for the actions of your child, because it's your child. That's why
Yeah.
our parents stress so much, like when you turn 18, I can't protect you anymore. Like
It's up to you
Yeah.
now.
my parents said that. I know other family members that said that to their kids when they turned 18. Like, if the police come knocking on my door now, they coming
That's
for you.
on you.
I'm not speaking for you. That's fully for you. So up until that point, like that's why I think some people might get mad or want to tug back when when they feel that their parents are being overprotective. But a lot of the times they have good intentions, so it's it's a
Yeah.
sticky
It
situation.
is.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
that's
would
a
not
very
want to be in
difficult
that situation.
situation. Yeah. That's very hard on them actually. But I'm gonna try to get away from all of that now, because before I wrap up everything, I have to at least let the
My
people
AirPod.
at least let the people know who you guys are, and just ask the regular questions like I would ask any other entrepreneur, which is, why did you guys start it? Why did you guys decide? I mean, you did say so. I listened to it, but I'm not going to review anything. So it's up to them who are watching to go and check it out themselves if they want to find out why. But I want to ask the question: why decide to do a podcast? Why? What was the idea behind it? Why did you choose Too Young for an Old Talk? I mean, I know why, but I'm not saying. So for them who are watching, why did you choose that name? And what was the whole idea behind it?
I think to start off, like we had a bouncy in terms of finding what medium we wanted to use to put out there. It was really down between a podcast and a blog. Um,
I knew it was very against writing. He was like,
I don't
I don't
blame
want to
it.
write,
I do
I don't
not blame
want
him
to
at
type.
all.
I done school. I already trying
He
to
was
write this.
like, I don't
Yeah,
want to write anything. I don't want to be.
I really don't like to do that either.
Yeah, all he was saying was, I don't want to write. I don't want
Yeah,
to write.
better
I was
talk.
like, okay.
It's better
He
to
was like,
talk. It's better to speak it, to be honest.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said talking over writing. So I said, okay, fine. Like, I'm fine with that. I could do either. So,
It's actually funny because I've done blogs in college, and then we started doing it during college too on our own with We Stay Munching. But like it was just like the desire was more so like, yeah, let's try the podcast, do something new, kind of thing, switch it up.
this. maybe I call it social. The where it came from, the concept, aside from it being in podcast form, was for me, we've been living up here for almost 3 years now. And from like
3 years
talking
today. Yesterday, I've been here.
That's it.
a couple
Okay.
days ago, maybe. I don't know.
No,
No,
yesterday.
it hasn't been three
Yeah,
years for me. Oh,
three
yeah,
years
for
yesterday.
you.
Yeah, yeah. Or 2 days
I,
ago.
from talking to other people up here and then people back home, I was realizing more like for us, it was pretty normal because we know it's very typical for us, the sixth form BCC, for
Yeah.
people to go overseas to study.
Yeah.
Like that's a normal
That's a
thing
normal.
from the
Yeah.
Caribbean.
Yeah.
Up here, that's not. Like people were like, "Huh? Why did you leave Barbados to come here? Are
Yeah.
you
Even at work.
crazy?"
Even at work.
Because
Yeah.
weather, just completely different life. People
Yeah.
are like, "Huh?"
Yeah.
But then they also spun it in a way that made it seem like we had such an interesting intersectionality in terms of like our age, the fact that we were born and raised in Barbados.
And
Now we've come over here for school. We're done pursuing school, almost done pursuing school, moving into careers up here, all that kind of stuff. So looking at it from that, to us, it seemed normal. We were like,
normal. It's
Yeah.
just what it
this is
is.
usual.
Yeah.
Like we're obviously privileged to have the opportunity to have come up here, but it's not as far fetched as some people were making it seem.
100%.
So when we started to think about it more and treat it like more of a unique experience that we have rather than just seeing it as
The normal.
any old thing, that's where the concept of the discussions that we have come from. In terms of name, there's two of us,
Yeah.
one, two.
Youthful.
And then we were trying to think of something that connected us to Barbados still in terms of dialect, slang, terminology. So we did kind of like a word cloud, but we didn't actually draw it. We kind of just were like shooting words back and forth at each other. And then we came to old talk because like I feel like I use that term whenever I'm home
does
because
still.
you go to gatherings and my parents just want to sit on old talk. Like
Catching up.
even as old as I am, I'm like, can we go home? Like ready to go?
Yeah.
Can we leave? And everybody just old talking. So we like that term. And then we wanted to kind of like
Connect the two.
use a pun, connect them, but then we ended up using a pun because
Yeah.
we wanted it to be two,
But also
Uh-huh.
two.
but also that we're too young
Young. Uh-huh.
to old talk
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's
we're
not.
young.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're really catching up on that. It's not like when parents have an old talk, they catch up for like last 5, 10
Yeah,
years.
and they're thinking about
Yeah.
things that have happened way
Happened like
before
years
we're.
and
If I do
years
that,
ago.
like I
Yeah.
can come back at a combination.
Yeah, we don't really have much
Yeah, yeah.
old talk about, so that's why it came out in that way. But
And then it was just like finding a logo or making a logo and
You guys made
deal
it.
with it. Well,
No.
we kind of
We-
designed the outlay.
I like sketched it,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
like what I wanted it to look like.
Then we kind of that was kind
And
of.
then I took a picture of it from my notepad, and then we sent it to our designer, which is
okay.
Stuart Stinthill,
Okay.
who's also a Bajan.
And we got
That's
it
good.
drawn by Adrian.
Yes, and then we also got the illustration done by another Bajan, Imani.
Imani?
I'm not sure what her last name is. Her
Okay.
Instagram is Art Ims X.
Art excellent, no? Or that might be her.
Oh yeah, Art X Ims.
Before I do close off everything, besides your podcast, of course, is there anything else that you would like to mention, promote, talk about that is going on in your life now? That you just go for it. Just promote it. Go ahead. Anything.
The only other thing we have is our food blog, We Say
Yeah.
Muching, which
Yeah.
we created initially when we first came to Canada. We have a whole episode about that. So
Yeah, I
I don't
listen
want to
to it.
spoil anything. If you want to actually hear about it,
Check it out.
you can go listen to that episode.
Actually, don't you guys have the, what do you call it? The thing you just started this last week, or was it the week before, where you do the music?
Music Mondays.
Yeah, Music Mondays.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So we used to do that.
Yeah.
Explain.
So we used to do it for our food blog.
Yeah.
Then a couple of technical difficulties and changing schedules.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up pausing it. But but it kind of makes more sense to do it on our podcast, so we just switch it up.
We
Copyright.
basically pick our top 3 songs that we've listened to
For like a week or
throughout
so,
the
or
past like
recently.
week, and then we share them on Mondays on our Instagram stories.
And your podcast comes
Pretty
out
snazzy.
when? And your podcast comes out what days?
Saturdays.
Every Saturday.
Every single
at
Saturday,
7
guys.
a.m.
Yeah. We usually post about it like in the afternoon, like 12, 1, 2.
But it's always
Yeah.
up at 7. Honestly, if it's not up, roast us.
It's a problem.
Like, roast us.
Call me up.
Like, please.
Go on DM them and let them know that they have to put
DM me.
post, please.
Just tell me
Yeah.
to be
Go and do
better.
it. And it's on SoundCloud, Apple Music,
Spotify.
and Spotify.
Overcast, Google Podcast, Radio Podcast, anywhere you can listen to
Listen
a
to a
podcast.
podcast.
Right there.
It's there.
Well, guys, first of all, go and follow them. At Too Young for an Old Talk. It's on Instagram, on SoundCloud, Spotify, all of those that they just mentioned, guys. And thank you guys for joining me today on What You Say podcast. It was absolute pleasure to go on your episode first and then do this one with a much more serious topic. So go and check out their episode I was in. It's dealing with the 9 to 5 versus entrepreneurships and all that. So they will release that. I don't know if it will be Saturday, but if they don't, remind them as they just said, stay tuned to that episode as well. And as well, go and check out the last episode that I did with the entrepreneur. I don't want to release her name yet because it's not out yet. It's not out yet. So go and check that out. By now, when this is going up, it should be out.
It'll be out.
So
if it's not out, roast him, okay?
Yep.
Yes, please do, because it should be going out this week. If it isn't, that's a problem. But yeah, go and follow them as I said. Go and check them out. Listen to their other podcasts. Again, thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, no problem. Subscribe down below. Hit the bell icon. Like, share. Go and check them out as I said. And I will see you guys for another video. And thank you.